Good morning, John. A few weeks ago, I woke up, as I do once or twice a year, with some mysterious thing having gone wrong in my neck. I do not understand what this is or how to have it not happen, but it is annoying, and so I had the thought, ugh, what a pain in the butt. Except, of course, this is not a pain in the butt. It's a pain in the neck. Except also it is both. In fact, it is all three. It is a figurative pain in the butt, it is a literal pain in the neck, and it is a figurative pain in the neck. And from there, because it's better than being frustrated that you can't turn your head to one side, I started to get curious. I started to wonder. We have these dual idioms for annoying things. And they're kind of dual idioms. Look, we're going to be saying the word ass in this video. I apologize. We don't tend to curse that much on Vlogbrothers, but it's an important part of the rabbit hole that we're going to go down today. And my first thought was probably these things have not been holding steady over time. Pain in the butt, and indeed pain in the ass, probably have been taking over from pain in the neck as we become more permissive with our language taboos. So that was my expectation, that pain in the neck would be shrinking as pains in the butt and ass rose. But John, what I discovered was altogether weirder than that. Of course, it is amazing that we can do this analysis at all, and we can do it with the help of Google's Ngram viewer. Basically, this is just a giant frequency of this word over time searchable database, and it is from books, mostly, also other printed material to some extent, not importantly from speech. This is from printed materials, which means that this does not at all help us tell whether pain in the neck or pain in the ass came first. It could very well be that pain in the ass came first, and then pain in the neck was the sort of less taboo way of saying it, and that's the one that made it into print. And indeed, it made it into print before pain in the ass did, so we can't know that. We're just looking at stuff that was printed in books. And this does not show you the absolute number of people who say pain in the neck or pain in the butt. It's going to show you that as a percentage of other words that were printed that year, because of course, the amount of things being published changes over time. To get this started, I just typed in pain in the neck as a phrase. Unfortunately, that's an issue because you could say pain in the neck and not mean pain in the neck. Sometimes in books, people are actually referring to literal pains and literal necks. So how do we solve for this problem? First, you can sort of just look at the baseline and see when there's a bump. And you can see a bump in the 1940s. That seems to be when the idiom maybe was first spiking, at least in print. But there are other ways to get around this problem of pain in the neck maybe not being the idiom. First, you could put it in quotation marks. Now, if you do this in a Google search, you're just searching for the exact phrase pain in the neck. But if you do it in Ngram, you're actually searching for pain in the neck in quotation marks. So authors writing, he was, as they say, a quote, pain in the neck, unquote. So that's basically authors referring to the idiom. And when you search with quotation marks, you see this huge explosion of people quoting the idiom in the 1940s. That then trails off as language gets more naturalized and the quotes stop being used. So that gives us a good baseline of the difference between a literal pain in the neck and a figurative pain in the neck. But there's also a second, possibly better way to figure this out, because in quotation marks was actually pretty rare showing up in print. You could just search for is a pain in the neck rather than just pain in the neck. And that places it into the context of the idiom. And what surprised me here is just how consistent pains in the neck are. The 2010 peak is barely below the 1940 peak. So whatever's going on with pain in the ass, in all of this time, we have not been saying pain in the neck that much less frequently. And that flies in the face of my hypothesis that pain in the neck would be being replaced by pain in the ass as our cultural taboo against talking about the butt has faded. Pain in the ass did not replace pain in the neck. Instead, it was pretty much entirely supplemental, but also, boy was it. Pains in the butt area surpassed pains in the neck in 1996 and never looked back. So my first thought here was, oh my God, we complain so much more than we used to. We didn't switch one of these for the other, we just whined more. But we cannot actually say that. Very good chance this isn't true. There are a lot of ways to say that something is annoying that we're not tracking here. We're just looking at 2 or 3. So the fact that those have risen does not mean that they aren't replacing other ways of saying that something is annoying. So I moved past that thought, and then I wondered something maybe a little more useful. Are these phrases perhaps doing different things? Is a pain in the neck the same thing as a pain in the ass? So I looked at dictionaries, and they mostly just said the exact same thing. The Cambridge Dictionary gives the same definition for both phrases, someone or something that is very annoying. But when I think about it, when I think about how I interpret that phrase, when I think about how I use it, I feel like they are used a little differently. My first thought was that pain in the neck slants toward a thing that is annoying, whereas a pain in the ass tends to be more likely a person. But then I kept thinking about this, and a kid isn't really a pain in the ass. They're a pain in the neck until they turn 13 years old, and then they're a pain in the ass. And I don't think that that's just me being polite to the idea of a child in my mind, because I think a pain in the neck is a thing that is that is annoying. It's like an unavoidable source of annoyance and friction. Like, a kid is a pain in the neck because kids are going to be a pain in the neck, and what are you going to do? Well, a pain in the ass is something that I am more frustrated by, possibly because I know deep down that it doesn't have to be that way. Like, the moment a child should know better, they stop being a pain in the neck and they become a pain in the ass. Like, having a flat tire is definitely a pain in the neck. It's not really a pain in the ass. I mean, you could use both. There's overlap here. But if I was gonna pick one, a flat tire is a pain in the neck. Whereas if somebody like stole the tires from my car, that's a pain in the ass. I'd be like, yeah, what a pain in the ass. Both the person who did that and the situation is now a pain in the ass. It's not a pain in the neck because it didn't have to happen. It shouldn't have happened. And so my new hypothesis from seeing this data that I have no way of actually proving except for interrogating my interior is that perhaps pain in the ass was able to grow while pain in the neck stayed steady because they're actually not doing the exact same work. They're doing some of the same work. There's definitely overlap, but we kind of maybe need both. And that's weird. I don't know how language decides what it will become, but it does. And we can always look deeper and find more. So with that in mind, here are some other weird things I found out while I was looking into this. First, in British books, pain in the arse led pain in the ass for a little while, but America appears to have won this particular battle. Thing number two, after pain in the ass started taking over, even though pain in the neck was right there as an alternate, a bunch of less taboo phrases popped up referring still to the butt. Pain in the rear end has always been the winner here, and pain in the patootie and tush are both absolutely cratering right now. I would guess because we're now much more afraid of being cringe than we once were. And then lastly, John, I created a graph that shows pains in the butt area versus pains in the neck to show how smooth that rise has been, though it finally does appear to be leveling off. And that's all I have for you. John, I'll see you on Tuesday.